What's going on, everybody? It is the one and only Q here from Retro Q Gaming, and coming at you live from a location where you need an invitation, aka the wonderful little glorious streets of Camarocho. Now, here we are with our 83rd jumbo supersized double stuffed for her pleasure episode of our Quack experimental podcast. Now, I'm doing this one ever so slightly differently, just because we gotta get a test on. We gotta see what's up, and of course, it's on myself to look the best. Obviously, we got the 100% silk, baby. You can't really tell in the light, but this bad boy, this is purple. 100%. We keeping it 10 by 10 silk. The ladies, chef's kiss. This one's for you, baby. This one's for you. Anyway, we got a lot to talk about here today. Jumbo episode. Many things have happened in the last few weeks. So, let's get straight into it, shall we? First off, we have Metro Exodus. Now, Metro Exodus, of course, is already out, and of course, it is important to mention that is the worst game in the series, the trilogy between Metro, 2033, Metro Last Light, and Metro Exodus. This is the one that's considered the only bad one, if you will. Now, it gets somewhat redeeming when it comes to that here. So we do have the worst game in the Metro series. Now it's getting an enhanced edition for PC, and basically they're going to cut down that enhanced edition to work on the new current gen consoles. So basically, PC, Xbox Series mess, and PlayStation 5. Now, there's a list out there of all the new upcoming improvements and all that are going to be included with Metro Exodus Enhanced Edition, and it goes as follow. So, as far as the PC, Xbox Series mess, and PlayStation 5 goes, all I guess you'd say 3 or 4 of these platforms. We'll just go with that in general because the whole thing with the Series S and Series X is a whole other waste of space. But anyway, fully ray trace lighting, every single light source, next gen ray tracing and denoising, next gen temporal reconstruction technology. Now, this one is important to mention because later on we'll talk about resolution and we'll talk about frame rate and all as well. But just remember, this one with their new engine has next gen temporal reconstruction technology. Remember that one. We'll come back and circle around to it. But anyway, I continue. Per pixel ray ray traced global illumination, infinite number of ray traced light bounces, atmosphere and transparent surfaces receive ray traced bounce lighting. Having to read all this in the weird bullet point way they've done it is a pain in the hole. Full ray traced lighting model support with color bleeding for every light source. I know, a pain. DirectX 12 Ultimate support, including DXR. That's weird. And and variable rate shading. So we also have GPU FP16 support and thousands of optimized shaders, FOV slider for consoles, 4K textures and assets. Now, that's the general idea when it comes to the consoles and basically the consoles support all of that and the PC obviously supports all of that. But because the PC is far more capable than these new consoles, it goes a little bit further because obviously it will be the best version of it as well. And it has advanced ray trace reflections, which of course, if you've used ray tracing in any way, shape or form and from multiple different games and all, like I have, ray trace reflections is the most impressive side of it as well. Ray trace lighting and shadows and ambient occlusion and all is great. You can definitely see the improvement, but ray trace reflections is where it really kicks in. Also, DLSS 2.0 support. So the Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5 are aiming for 4K 60 with improved load times and almost everything we've listed before. Everything except the advanced ray trace reflections in DLSS 2.0. The Xbox Series S is clocking in at what it's going to aim for at 1080-60, and it will be a free upgrade for all platforms. It's coming for later in 2021. Now, One other thing that is very important to talk about that I said we would cycle back to with this one. So, Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5. They're aiming for 4K 60 with all of these special advanced features. Now, if you know any of the games out there at the moment that run in either 4K, either 60 FPS, or if they have a ray tracing mode, you know it's always compromised quality. Spider-Man, for example, dynamic 4K 30 with ray tracing, or lower dynamic 4K 60 with ray tracing and lower quality everything basically. So you can see there's a big issue here. Let's look at pretty much every other game as well. They all run at questionable resolutions, questionable frame rates, questionably low quality. Let's use Control for an example. If you look at the control settings on either Xbox Series X or PlayStation 5, well, if you compare them to the PC version when running in quality mode on the consoles, you get 30 frames per second, you get 1440p, you get almost everything at the low or off setting. You get the ray tracing at a lower than low setting. There's four different ray tracing settings altogether, two of which are enabled on the consoles, two of which are completely turned off. They're running on a custom low setting, which is half the quality of the lowest setting on PC. You're getting medium quality textures and medium quality on two other things that are not really important, or at least ones that I cannot remember what they are because they're not texture or resolution. They're not texture assets or ray tracing, which is the important one. But having said all that, you're getting it at 30 FPS. You really think a game is going to come out of nowhere and give you native 4K 60 FPS with all this stuff and all this different variations on ray tracing? Let's cycle back to what we listed earlier with one of their new highly touted things that they were going with the new engine and all there. Next gen temporal reconstruction technology. If you understand what temporal reconstruction technology is, it means you've been paying attention for the entire previous generation. Temporal reconstruction technology is when they have sub-native resolution and they will just essentially recreate everything in between. Capcom are known to use it for a lot of their console games like Resident Evil 7 and a few others. In fact, Resident Evil 8 on consoles is even looking like it's going to be using it as well. Big oof there. So they can claim 4K 60 all they want, but it's sub-native resolution with fake resolution and fake upscaling. Get the hell out of here. Thankfully, playing on the glorious PC Gaming Master Race with an AMD 5900X and an RTX 3090, aka the best GPU in the world, well, I won't have to worry about that. Because here, on the glorious PC Gaming Master Race, we don't need to make sacrifices. We're not a console. Pfft, plebs. But anyway, speaking of plebs and whatnot, we're going to go to a little bit of a show. This one is the AEW Games show, as they call it, the 2-point show. Now, this one happened fairly recently, but sadly, I was holding off because there was 3 different streams over the course of about 24 hours or so that I didn't want to break up and do differently. I figured I'd roll them all into here. So this one, the 2-point show, is an update on the 3 upcoming AEW games. Now, one of which is the important one. 2 of them I don't really care about, but I'll throw them in here just for the sake of it. So, unfortunately, the big important one, what they're calling the console game, they keep calling it console game and referencing it as the console game. I'm hoping it comes to PC as well. If not, I'll just buy it on one of the consoles. But I think they're saying that just to differentiate it between the 2 mobile games that they have. That's what I'm hoping, at least, anyway. But we'll wait and see. So, anyway, unfortunately, all they showed we were hoping for a big update, but all they showed was that it's how they're capturing the sounds and sound effects and all for the console game. It shows them how they're hitting the mat with different positions, different moves, different surfaces to make different sounds and whatnot and all as well. So it's coming along, but it's nowhere near where we want it. And they have said that they do hope, they don't want to rush it, they want to get you the best game out as possible, but they don't expect it to be out this year. They're hoping and aiming for 2022, but who knows? I mean, things can change and whatnot as well. So They've also showed off the GM Manager mobile game. There's not really much to show about that. They showed a couple of the animations, a couple of the stats, the menus, the screens to expect, things like that and all as well. And there's not really much to go into. It's still in production and it will be coming soon to both iOS and Android. Now, they also gave a quick brief, I won't say overview, but they gave a quick teaser, if you will, of the, I don't even realize why they're doing this one. It's just kind of strange. But the 13-in-1 casino mobile game that they were putting out, it has 13 casino games essentially. And that one is actually launching on February 26th. So by the time you're seeing this video, basically when they had the presentation, they said, "Oh, it's out tomorrow." So by the time you're seeing this, it's probably already out on iOS and Android. As far as all of this goes, I don't care about the two mobile games at all. I'm hoping the console game will be good. I'm just going to refer to it as a console game. I'm hoping to have the console game be good, simply because they're touting it as the new No Mercy. They realize they're basing it off that. The art style that we've seen so far is kind of questionable, but we have to wait and see. At the end of the day, I can suffer that little bit of questionable art style if the gameplay is proper quality. But we have to wait and see. It's a year plus away. Who knows? Not to mention, it's got Kenny Omega in it, so it's bound to be shite. Boom! See what I did there? Anyway, let's move on. Next up, we're going to talk some cryptocurrency mining. Now, in a different way. We're not talking everyone in... I'm not going to talk and talk everyone into investing into Dogecoin or any of that stuff. No. We're going to talk a little bit about combating crypto mining in certain specific scenarios, hardware, and situations. This time, we're looking at NVIDIA, because NVIDIA is trying to combat miners away from the RTX 3060, which just launched 2 days ago. Now, with the new 3060 and with the drivers that have just released day and date for it, what they're intending to do and what these drivers did, they're cutting the cryptocurrency mining hash rate in half from what the card should be capable of. Now, as a quick example, let me give you proper official current rates and all as well. So the regular 3080 gives 86 mega hashes, while the 2080 Ti would give you 50 to 60, depending on, again, your individual specific version of the card, but you get the idea. Now, in the case of the 3080 to the 2080 Ti, you're looking at a 70% improvement for essentially, going by retail at least anyway, lower cost. So that's a bit of a big jump right there. And not to mention, even if you were to get the same amount of mega hashes for a 3060 as you would a 2080 Ti, you're still getting them at a significantly cheaper price. But here's where the whole thing kicks in and kicks off. So this design, this driver that's specifically downgrading the mega hash rate for the 3060, this is intended to entice miners to not buy GeForce RTX 3000 series cards, or specifically the RTX 3060 card. This is the only one that it's going to be affected on. And that the whole idea is so that gamers can get their hands on RTX 3060 for obvious reasons. It's a gaming card first and foremost, even if it is, it's kind of a plebeian entry-level card, but with the whole DLSS 2.0, you have people that don't understand PC hardware and they just buy the cheapest shit they can and try to punch well above their weight. Hey, c'est la vie. Anyway, so what they're also doing is not only could this prove entirely useless for multiple different reasons, the big thing is they're trying to push their new line of mining GPUs. So NVIDIA have new CMP, crypto mining processor, I believe it's called, series for dedicated just for mining. They have no video outputs. They have none of the advanced features or anything that a regular graphics card would have, because you're not going to use them. They're just for mining and stuff like that. So there's 4 cards in this series with varying hash rates and all as well. We're not going to get into the big specs and the big details on them here, but they say that it's not going to impact the availability or the production quality and quantity and availability of RTX 3000 series cards. Now, they say this because the new CMP cards they're releasing and the cores and all in there are not up to RTX 3000 series standards and specs. That's all well and good. If you go out and purposely make lower quality GPUs missing these features, that's all well and good. But are they using production time, production resources, etc., that could be used to create new RTX 3000 series graphics cards, be it a 3060, a 3060 Ti, a 3070, a 3080, or even a 3090? That's the big issue. Are they wasting them on these? And are they wasting them on these instead of putting them out on the regular proper 3000 series cards, which is where the big problem with stock is currently lying. Now, moving away from that to some more plebeian stuff, we're going to talk PlayStation. Because, consoles, plebs and all as well. So we're going to talk PlayStation. This, in particular, we're going to look at the PlayStation State of Play. This one happened the other night. I didn't get a chance to cover it live because I was streaming other stuff, and it would have been absolutely all over the place. Between this, the AEW 2-point show, and one other one, which we're going to get to a little bit later, well, yeah, there's a lot of stuff to cover in this one. So let's just get right into it, shall we? So first off, Crash Bandicoot 4, it's about time. They have confirmed that it is getting a PS5 upgrade. It's targeting 4K 60 FPS and 3D audio. The big scary word there, of course, being targeting 60 FPS, meaning there's likely going to be frame drops and all as well, because let's face it, these consoles are underpowered as shite. It also supports save file transfer. It's going to be available from March 12th, with the upgrade paths and whatnot will all be explained on the PlayStation website and all at a later date. They weren't up there at the time that I made these notes, so they were unavailable to me for all of this to detail here. I'm assuming it's based on if you have a physical version or a digital version or whatever it is. I'm assuming it's a free upgrade, so I don't know, but I'm assuming if you have a digital upgrade, it will give you a PS5 free digital copy on top of it. If you have a physical version, obviously you're going to need a physical, what do they call them, disc-based version of the PS5. You pop it in, it will probably give you the whole upgrade and idea and all from there. But we have to wait and see how it goes. They also detailed a little bit about Returnal on April 30th for PlayStation 5. It's kind of weird. It doesn't look very interesting to me at all. But I will say they've kind of outlined potential replayability and things to keep it fresh and different. Typically, games like that would generally be a straight line the entire time, kind of like almost like a walking simulator with a tiny bit of combat added in. But with this one, every time you die, the world changes, enemy spawns change, different things happen, etc. and all as well. But again, it doesn't look any interest to me. It doesn't appeal to me at all. There's also Knockout City. This one was properly revealed first in the Nintendo Direct a week or two ago. I can't even remember when it was. It was just all over the place. But essentially, it's a cartoon arena shooter, except instead of murdering people with nail guns, rail guns, and rocket launchers, you're doing the whole thing with dodgeballs and all as well. Nothing to talk about here. There's also Deathloop. They gave a nice big extended trailer for Deathloop. They didn't even give a release date that I saw. However, the release date has been put up on various other websites, including the Bethesda launcher and Steam, which is coming day and date the same as the PlayStation 5. And then it will have 6 months timed exclusivity before it comes to Xbox. So it will be available on May 21st on the PC. So it should be May 21st on the PS5 at the same time as well. There's also Sifu, which is kind of a small, weird kung fu game coming to PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5. By the way, the majority of stuff we have in this State of Play is also coming to maybe either multiple other consoles and PC. I'm usually not going to go out of the way to mention that, but we're just highlighting them in here. So PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 for Sifu. It is the kind of weird kung fu indie game, and in most of what they showed off in the trailer, it looks like it's kind of trying to be Old Boy. the proper Korean version of Old Boy, not that shitty remake from the US. But anyway, this doesn't look any interest to me. But if it's for you, maybe it's for you. Solar Ash is the next game that they showed off as well. It's one of those wannabe high-speed adventure games that kind of looks crap. It looks very Zelda Breath of the Wild inspired, not in the sense of the visual style or the open world or anything, but in the fact that it hits 0 FPS when you hit a power-up, just like Breath of the Wild did when you broke a weapon. Boom. Oof. PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 later this year. There's also a new entry in the series that will not die, the 600 game in the series, Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach. 2021, again, 600 game in the series, do not care. It's just crappy YouTuber bait and stuff that the kids love. There's also Oddworld Soulstone, which was a little bit more interesting. It's a new one in the Oddworld line. There's so many of them at this point, I can't even keep up, although admittedly I don't even try to keep up anymore. Other than Abe's Odyssey and Abe's Exodus, I kind of just gave up after that. But it's a good style. It looks like a new, improved version of that. There's so much different more stuff in it as well, including a little bit of combat, a little bit of stealth, a little bit of extra bonuses and abilities that your fellow followers and all can have. In fact, there's over 1,000 of them to save in this entire game, and they all have various different stuff. It's coming to PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 on April 6th, and will have extra DualSense features in what they're calling 2.9D platforming game and all as well. Yeah, there's 3D, there's 2.5D, and now we have someone else, Lorne Lanning, trying to be extra edgy with 2.9D. Sigh. Also, it is important to note as well that from April 6th to May 3rd, the PlayStation 5 version of that game will be on PlayStation Plus, so you can pick it up between then as well. It's also important to note that because it's on PlayStation Plus, it is not free because you have a paid subscription. Just like many places will try to tell you that it's free on PlayStation Plus, but those people are horribly wrong. There's also Kena Bridge of Spirits, which is a big one that a lot of people seem to be interested in. It's got good quality animation. I believe it's using the Unreal Engine. It sucks from the facial aspect because she has that horrible, almost Fortnite look in the face that a lot of Unreal Engine stuff has these days, because that's kind of what they're building it towards, but it's, yeah, crap in that regard. If you know what Kena Bridge of Spirits is, you're already interested in it, but the big important one is that it now has a proper release date of August 24th on the PS4 and PS5. It's also coming to PC, but yeah, you get the idea. I'm not going to go out of my way to mention it for every single game and all in here. Now, the big one that capped off this entire thing, Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade. Now, this is coming on June 10th of 2021. The big thing here is that it's essentially Yuffie DLC. It's new DLC, carries a new story going on at the same time as the regular Final Fantasy VII Remake, including Yuffie as the main character. And it's all done kind of on a side, if you will. And it takes place at the same time from a completely different aspect, and it's handled with practically so many different things. But some of the big important stuff to note here is that it's also being accompanied by a PlayStation 5 update for the Final Fantasy VII Remake. It's coming with stuff like new lighting, improved cutscenes, improved textures. That's obviously a big one, considering some of the PS4 version ran out of texture memory and it just could not do anything. And basically, other than very specific things like character models, which you see all the time, well, there's a lot of PS1 quality textures in there as well. It's kind of infamous at this point. It's also got things like volumetric fog and a couple of extra ones in there too, as enhancements and improvements. It's got quality of life adjustments as well that we'll see whenever they finally come out. And it has two different display modes. There's graphics display mode, which prioritizes displaying graphics at 4K resolution. And then, of course, oh, by the way, that's obviously a failure at 30 FPS. And then there is the performance optimization mode, which prioritizes maintaining a 60 FPS frame rate, which is likely going to have lower quality visuals and lower resolution, possibly even dynamic resolution, but in all to keep the important 60 FPS. There's also going to be normal classic difficulty added. The classic one, you might remember in the original, was the one where essentially the character attacks automatically, and then you, whenever your limit bar is up, or your ATB gauge is up, you could pause, not so much pause the game, but extremely slow it down, enter your command for magic, attack, weapon skill, whatever it was. And that was technically the easy mode. So now they have normal classic in this new one as well. It's going to have stuff like shortened loading times because it's going to be optimized for the SSDs, and it's even going to have a photo mode in there as well. Now, it also comes with a PS4 to PS5 free upgrade, including save data transfer and all is as well. However, the Yuffie DLC is PlayStation 5 only. It can be bought separately after upgrading. If you don't have it already, if you don't have a copy of the PlayStation 4 version, you can buy the whole thing as a PlayStation 5 intergrade version and just go with that. It comes with the DLC. The DLC, will, as far as we know, and has been confirmed so far, maybe it's timed exclusive, maybe it's not, that is not going to be available for the PlayStation 4. So it's only going to be available after you upgrade or buy the full PlayStation 5 version. Now, there's no price on the DLC separately as it is just yet, but like I said, if you have the PS4 version of the game, you get the base game PS5 upgrade for free. So that is the important one as well. Also, the PlayStation 5 native intergrade version bought fully as its own product and all as well is going to be at that $70 increased price point. Big oof. I'm expecting this to be very, very expensive when it comes to DLC. It wouldn't surprise me if this was €30, maybe even more, just because we've seen Kingdom Hearts 3 and that DLC. And not to mention, this is a way for them to almost recoup and justify and trick people into. It's like, well, you're getting this free PlayStation 5 upgrade. DLC, we can make our money on there. We'll see how it goes. So remember, all of this, the intergrade version and the PlayStation 5 upgrade, is coming on June 10th of 2021. There's currently no other platform announcements and all just yet. If you're familiar with the whole situation, the timed exclusivity deal on Final Fantasy VII Remake is even advertised on the front of the box as April 10th. So I reckon April 10th, maybe April 11th, we'll see the announcements for maybe a base Xbox One version of the regular game and probably a PC version and Xbox Series Mesh version of the integrated editions, most likely going to launch on June 10th as well. So that's the important one, because frankly, I am going to play this game again on PC. That's the only way I'm ever going to play this game again. It was overall a decent game for the most part, with the exception of the last chapter and a half, which were absolutely dreadful. Some of the worst RPG gameplay I've ever played, not to mention the changes and all as well, which I'm not going to spoiler here, but the only way I would do it again would be moving away from console, because frankly, I mean, the PS5, it's compromised, it's failed. It has to have two separate modes to run at either quality or frame rate. Here on PC, we don't compromise. I'm looking forward to playing at the full quality in every way, shape, and form, and at the high frame rate at the same time. That's the big one. Now, having said all that, we'll move on a little bit as well, because we're going to talk with some studio acquisitions here too. So, you might remember a little while back that there were talks of a Codemasters buyout with several different studios or several different publishers vying and jockeying for a position about who's going to buy it. Most notably, it was EA and Take-Two. Take-Two put in the first big bid for it. EA outbid them. It's now officially done, officially confirmed, and EA officially have acquired Codemasters for $1.2 billion. That's a lot of money. And like I said, they beat out Take-Two in that way. I can't remember if Take-Two's one was disclosed, their bid, but you get the idea. Now, EA own not only the studio and all the talent and all as well, but they also own the IPs associated with Codemasters, including but not limited to Dirt, Formula 1, Grid, and Project Cars. Now, I'm not familiar, well, I shouldn't say I'm not familiar, I'm not into any of these games because I don't play racing games, but all I can say is rest in peace, Codemasters. 2 or 3 games from now, you're going to be closed. You're going to be shuttered. You're all going to be let go. Your IPs are going to be stuck on a shelf, gathering dust forever, along with stuff like Medal of Honor. Although technically, I guess that is getting a VR game. You're getting stuck up there with Dead Space. And not only that, you're also going to be stuck up with what we're talking about here in our next section, which is Anthem Next. There's a big one. Now, of course, if you know what Anthem and Anthem Next was, well, EA, after Anthem essentially flopped massively and was completely panned, EA looked over what they basically said they had plans to revamp and essentially remake and redo the entire game. Now, EA were recently looking over the progress and the plans for revamping it, how it was all going to go and all as well, to see if it was viable to save it. It turns out it's not, and development has fully been cancelled entirely. There's going to be no new full proper revamp. There's going to be no even patches or maybe fixes. There's going to be no patches or no new content added in any way, shape, or form. Anthem is officially dead, as it should be. Copy and fail at cloning Borderlands 2, or even worse, if you copy and fail at cloning something like Destiny, which cloned and failed to clone Borderlands 2, well, you get what you fucking deserve, as they say. Game, all style, no substance, no content, no anything. And of course, let's not forget the massive downgrade after they specifically went out and said it won't be downgraded. Anyway, EA have even gone and taken this as a message because they have pulled all multiplayer from the upcoming Dragon Age game because they saw Anthem was a failure and people do not want to play multiplayer in select things. Dragon Age, not really known for a multiplayer mode, multiplayer aspect, multiplayer series, multiplayer anything. So now, they're fucked. But we also have a little bit of an interesting one as well, because remember I said we had 3 different streams that we had to cover with announcements and all as well? Well, we're moving on to our third one. First off, we had the AEW Games 2-point show, then we had the PlayStation State of Play, and then yesterday we had the Pokemon Presents, I can't call it direct, it's not a direct, but a PlayStation Presents live streaming announcements. This was celebrating their 25th anniversary stream with a bunch of announcements and all in there too. So, what do we have here? They talked a little bit about their mobile games, which I'm not even going to mention here. There's also new Pokemon Snap updates. Now, that's right, the game is actually called New Pokemon Snap. I'm not saying there's new updates for Pokemon Snap. It's called New Pokemon Snap. It's set in the Lental region. It has various different climates, including jungles, deserts, and even under the sea. Because it's an entirely new region, it encompasses new people, new characters, new professor and all as well. You can take your pictures and just like you would, and there's even a pseudo photo mode in there as well. You can edit them with stickers and frames and fancy things like that. They can be posted on to, I guess you can't call it Miiverse. You can post them on the social side of it, of the Nintendo online service. However, you do need to pay in order to be able to do that because you need the, what do they call it? The subscription service just to post them. Big oof. It's got other things as well. You feed them to make them do specific, you can bait them in, make them do specific poses. There's these items to make them glow, and you can catch all these rare moments and all as well. It's Pokemon Snap. It's coming April 13th. I still kind of want to buy it. I'm leaning ever so slightly over 50%. As a quick example, if it was out of 100, I'm maybe leaning at 55% to buy it and 45% to not buy it. But some of the rest of the stuff we have in here too is the Gen 4 remakes. These were one of the probably the biggest announcement included in here as well. So they do have Gen 4 remakes for Nintendo Switch called Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Pokemon Shining Pearl. Now, these look like 3D remakes of the originals, akin to the original view and camera and the isometric perspective, not like the full 3D Sword and Shield ones. The art style is a little bit strange to some people. It might look a little bit off, but if you ask me, it actually looks like a more higher resolution version of... It looks like kind of an updated, more higher resolution version of the original assets and all in there too, or how they would look if they were 3D and then blown up even more. But people have also likened it to along the lines of, say, the Secret of Mana remake or a high-end mobile game, which is big oof no matter which way you go on those. But that's just how it comes across to me anyway. Importantly enough, it's made by Ilka, who also make they help develop a Pokemon Home and stuff. But the big important thing is that they are making it, and it's not being made by Game Freak, because we all know Game Freak has proven himself incompetent at this point. It's coming later this year in 2021. There's also one other little saddening thing here is I just restarted and finished Gen 4 a little over a year ago, so I'm actually raging that it's not Gen 5. I was hoping it would be Gen 5, even though I knew it wouldn't be, because they've done remakes of 1, 2, and 3. 4 would obviously be next. But I never finished Gen 5. I even restarted Gen 5 early last year, and I got a little bit into it, but there was only so much I could do and all as well. But other than that, there's one last one too, which is Pokemon Legend Arceus. I always call it Arceus, but it might be Arceus. It's kind of a 3D open world action adventure RPG style game. Not much to know about this. It is a sequel in the Sinnoh, or prequel in the Sinnoh region, so it takes place considerably earlier. You can see all the stuff in there. It takes place what could potentially be hundreds, if not thousands of years prior to when the modern games would set in and all as well. Unfortunately, this one is developed by Game Freak. It's coming out in 2022. And, well, it's not my style of game. It's not a mainline game. I basically don't care. That's the easy way of looking at it. But there's also, moving away to a different one, backwards compatibility. So, with backwards compatibility, we know it's all over the place depending on what platform you have, unless you're playing on the glorious PC Gaming Master Race, in which case you have backwards compatibility for 99.9999999% of everything. Anyway, Microsoft have actually been working on a new system about improving backwards compatibility for OG Xbox 180 games, Xbox 360 games, and even Xbox One games as well. So now they've introduced something that they're calling FPS Boost to select new games. So these games, for example, they may have originally been capped at 30 FPS, will now be able to run at 60 FPS. There's even one or two out there that were 60 FPS that will now be able to run at 120 FPS if you have an Xbox Series X console. I don't know if the Series S gets the proper bonus and benefits on them, but the big thing is the Xbox Series X has the power and all to do all this. So the list is currently very, very small, but it is planned to be improved over time. They're mainly going to be focusing after this on Xbox One games and boosting them from 30 to 60. Partly it's considerably harder to do with OG Xbox 180 games and 360 games, which makes complete sense. But anyway, as far as this stuff here with the current list goes, Far Cry 4, Sniper Elite 4, Watch Dogs 2, EA Sports UFC 4, new Super Lucky's Tale. Currently, for example, Lucky's Tale is aiming for 120 FPS, and EA Sports UFC 4 is now running at 60 FPS. So that's obviously a big improvement there if you're stuck on a console like an absolute pleb with these awful frame rates and accepted them for all this time. Microsoft does all the work for this, which is the big important one as well, because they just have to get developers' consent and permission and any potential licensing agreements and all out of it, and Microsoft does all the work for this. But the big problem with that is if developers say no, it makes you wonder, why are they saying no? It could potentially be including them for maybe doing their own remaster down the line. You never know. But anyway, they say it won't be suitable for all games, so basically you should just play games on PC where not only you get better looking games, but you also get that entire improved frame rate the entire time because, well, they're not consoles. Now, there's one other important Sony one. Well, two other kind of important Sony ones, but one of them, let's go one important PlayStation 4 one that we'll go with here. Sony's PlayStation Play at Home initiative. It's a small initiative that they started early last year, given the fact that everyone was starting to be locked at home with coronavirus and all as well. And it was basically designed to help people stay home, give them something to do, keep them incentive to stay inside during the early days of COVID. Essentially, PlayStation gave away, at the time last year, Journey and Uncharted, the Nathan Drake collection, for free, entirely for free, not even with a PlayStation Plus sub, because that wouldn't be for free, on PlayStation 4. All you had to do was redeem it and add it to your account for free within the allotted time period. I don't know if they updated it and ever added new games or replaced it or anything like that. I didn't even claim them. I have Nathan Drake Collection on disc and I didn't give a shit about Journey. So maybe they did from there. But I never heard them do anything about it after that. But they are updating it as well for 2021. So they gave away 2 games last year. They're giving away 1 game this year by the sounds of it. So far at least anyway. It starts on March 1st. Currently, the only game listed is Ratchet Clank Remake on the PlayStation 4 from, I guess it's, 5 years ago at this point? But it will be completely free to redeem on your account from March 1st until the end of the month. March 25th also sees the extended access to Funimation Plus if you sign up and subscribe as a brand new account / new subscriber. We'll have to see what else gets added. It does seem like they're going to be adding more in there as well. I would expect them to give in older exclusive games, maybe smaller exclusive games. I would say, for example, Medieval, but I think that's just a little bit too new, even if it is a smaller, lower scale one that could be in there. But we'll have to wait and see anyway. There's plenty of time for it to go, unfortunately. Sticking with Sony, though, we do have some big, funny stuff to talk about here. Days Gone, baby. Days Gone. So, I've covered Days Gone in general, about how glorious it's going to be on the PC Gaming Master Race, even if it is a shit game. And how salty and butthurt all the fanboys are over it. But this one isn't about that, because the system requirements and the improvements have been listed, detailed, and put up online. Now, some of the most important stuff here is that it is going to include ultra-wide monitor support for the 4 people out there that play games in ultra-wide monitors. Now, the big problem, of course, is depending on how it handles this. If it's in-game and handles it properly in-game, that's all well and good. Chances are, cutscenes and all, like Horizon Zero Dawn, will have pillar boxes on each side, or else you can blur the screen so they don't stand out too much during the 16:9 cutscenes. But that's one other thing anyway. It also includes an uncapped frame rate, which, I mean, it runs at 60 FPS now on the PS5 with a fake 4K resolution, but you get the idea. At least now we can run it even higher because, well, we're not plebs. I mean, I played Horizon Zero Dawn on 120 FPS. Booyah. It also has improved graphics, which is kind of something that almost didn't have with Horizon Zero Dawn. I'll have to elaborate on that now in a second. It has increased level of detail, aka it has higher quality textures. It also has proper FOV and foliage draw distance. In a game like that, because of being set in the wild essentially, believe it or not, that's actually pretty important. The big difference in detail that is important here is when you compare the listed improvements for Horizon Zero Dawn. They said there would be no detail or texture or remaster quality. It would all be extra additional things like lighting, shadows, there was foliage improvements and all as well. There was a bunch of water and reflections and all. So that's all in there too. But in this one, in Days Gone, they do specifically list level of detail. So it is going to be higher quality textures and all in every way, shape, and form. Of course it is. The PC is the best, so why wouldn't it be? But anyway, let's move on to the minimum system requirements here. So minimum system requirements requires a 64-bit processor and operating system. Has a operating system, Windows 10 64-bit, processor Intel Core i5 2500K at 3.3 GHz or an AMD FX 6300 at 3.5 GHz, 8 GB of RAM, and NVIDIA GeForce GTX 780, a regular 780 that is, or an AMD Radeon R9 290 DirectX 11 with 70 GB of storage space available. They recommend, even with the minimum ones, SSD for storage and 16 GB of RAM. However, this is still minimum. We'll go on to recommended. They just list that one separately for some reason like that. So for recommended system requirements, again, 64-bit operating system and processor, Windows 10 64-bit. The processor is a Core i7-4770 at 3.5 GHz or a Ryzen 5 1500X at 3.5 GHz, 16 GB of RAM, an NVIDIA GeForce GTX 1060 or an AMD Radeon RX 580, DirectX 11, 70 GB storage space, and again, an SSD included on there as well. Now, there's one important thing to note about this too. This is the same specifications, the same recommended hardware that was given for Horizon Zero Dawn. And we know that that was a pretty poor port originally. So, the studio likely has no experience with PC development. Be careful. Be careful. I urge you to not pre-order this game. Wait till it comes out. Try before you buy. In which case, because we're on Steam and whatnot, you can buy the game, download it, boot it up, run it for an hour, see how it goes, and then decide if you want to refund it and wait, or just go from there. I personally may buy this game. I think the game doesn't look very good. I think it's a pretty shit game from what I understand. I've never played it, but it flopped, and it's pretty much been panned. But we'll see. We'll see. We will see. Who knows? Who knows? It really just goes to show. Horizon Zero Dawn has really opened my eyes in a way to... How can I explain it? Horizon Zero Dawn has really opened my eyes in the sense that all these Sony games that I was never really interested in, that got critical acclaim and all, which everyone just pointed out it's getting way inflated scores literally just because it's an exclusive game. And then I played Horizon. It got massively inflated scores literally just because it was an X exclusive. That was it. It was exclusive at the time, and that was it. Shame. Absolute shame. So chances are even playing a better version on PC, like say Horizon Zero Dawn or Days Gone, isn't going to get me to like a bad game, even with better FPS, native resolution, and improved quality settings. But I don't know. We'll see. Other than that, we have BlizzCon. This is going to be our last proper important thing to talk about here. BlizzCon, of course. Now, so what they showed off for BlizzCon here was not much in relation to Diablo 4, which of course was the big thing that everyone was interested in. So they unveiled a new class for BlizzCon. Still not releasing this year. New class for BlizzCon. New class for Diablo 4. Still not releasing this year. So boo, hiss on that front. Overwatch 2, no one cares. That's the best way I can do it. But what people do care about, the actual proper important one, Diablo 2 remaster, baby. It's going to be so good. Diablo 2 remaster is going to be, it's going to be good. It's high resolution, full 3D, full proper remake, high frame rate support, just like you would expect, all the usual stuff. It also includes the expansion Lord of Destruction. You can swap back and forth between the original graphics and the brand new style as well. I don't know why anyone would want to do that. If you've ever tried to go back to Diablo 2 recently, it just doesn't feel this. The gameplay is still there, but you'd want to do it with improved things. Importantly, it does look a bit more akin to Diablo 2 than Diablo 3, so it's not got that whole horrible cartoony WoW-esque looking thing as well. So it basically looks like Diablo 2 with a proper remake and all in there as well. It should be a quality remake and remaster because it's being handled by the people who were just recently moved over to Blizzard, aka Vicarious Visions, who, as we talked about before, did the Crash Bandicoot trilogy, which was done really well, and the Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2 HD remake bundle, which was also done pretty well and all in there too. No date on it just yet other than 2021. It's going to be €40 for the game / expansion included, and it's definitely worth it as well. PC and console, it's coming to PS4. I think they said Xbox One and it's coming to PC. I think they said it's coming to Xbox One and PS4. It's obviously coming to Xbox Series Mess and PlayStation 5, and it's even coming to Nintendo Bitch as well. But I mean, you shouldn't play these games on anything other than a PC. It's people. What the fuck are you people doing? Really, it disgusts me. Ew. Anyway, back to our last little one here that we want to talk about. There's the best thing that everyone, if I can find my notes here, and the best thing, the best segment, the best section that everyone comes for every single time we do one of these. Q, what's going on? What's up? What's going down? What is the 411? What's going on? What are you playing? Well, I had been beasting Rock and Roll Racing because they released it, the old school retro arcade collection, on I was going to call it Battle.net, but I forgot to change it. So the Blizzard.net app, and it comes with the definitive edition of Rock and Roll Racing. It comes with the definitive edition of Blackthorn, and the definitive edition of the Lost Vikings. I haven't started the Lost Vikings. I haven't started Blackthorn. I have just completely been destroying Rock and Roll Racing. It's so good with all the improved, proper CD quality music, the real tracks, the lyrics and all as well, and of course the visuals and control. It's such a damn good game and all there too. I played the demo for Project Triangle Strategy on the Nintendo Switch. It has potential. It looks like it has a good idea. It needs to be improved. It has some severe performance and quality of life issues, which it's a game very early in development and is going through development and changes. They're going to get feedback from the demo and all as well. So hopefully that improves and all on there too. But I think this game has a lot of potential. If it improves, I would buy this on PC, not because I wouldn't buy it on Switch. So hopefully, like Octopath Traveler, it will eventually, if not at the same time, come to PC. But I would prefer not to buy it on Switch if I don't have to, especially because I'm expecting performance issues. They had them in Octopath Traveler, for fuck's sake. They're probably going to have them in this. Well, they're probably going to have them in the finished version of this, because they definitely have them in this pre-release version. But it got me hyped up to play Vandal Hearts, which is the big important one, more than anything. Other than that, I finished watching Claymore. That's pretty much all there is to it. The anime Claymore. It's been 14 years overdue at this point, but I finally got it done. It started well, it got a little bit better, and then, unfortunately, it kind of drooped a little bit. It finished a little bit worse than it started, but it wasn't bad overall. Maybe like 6 out of 10, slightly above average kind of deal, but it's good to finally knock it off the list after so long. But other than that, I have to move on, and I am, well, the only thing that's going on now is I'm currently watching the original Yu-Gi-Oh series, believe it or not. I'm on to, I think it's episode 10 or so, but there's 5 series. Someone's going to give me shit for watching the proper US DVD rip versions with the censorship and changes. That's the version I know, and that's the version I have nostalgia for and all as well. So I feel like I can just go with that. After that, I have to see what's coming next as far as streaming goes, and I have to see what comes next as far as playing games go and what to watch and all next. Speaking of which, remember to head on into the description box below, hit up that little Twitch link we have down there, drop us a follow. You'll see the retro game stream starting 8 p.m. GMT Monday to Friday, going for several hours every night. Well, every weekday night, and we've got so much retro stuff going on. We're just about to finish Vandal Hearts this coming Monday, and then we'll be moving on to whatever, whenever, whoever knows what it's going to be. It's beast. It's a great crack over there. You should join up. Fun stuff. Fun times. Anyway, that is it for our 83rd episode of our Quack Experimental Podcast. Of course, in the meantime, head on down to the comment section below, slide on in, leave whatever it is you need to leave there. Salt, butthurt, praise, questions, comments, whatever it is. Leave it all there. That's what it's for. Then while we're at it, why not head on over, hit the subscribe button, and even ring that little notification bell. And while you're at it, always remember that winners... Oh no. Camarocho, baby, what are you doing? Winners don't play switchboards.